Panther Brewery Festive Bitter.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews, and an apology for not putting up much content in the past week or two. Been very busy, had a cold, really not felt well, so no point in doing beer reviews unfortunately. Couldn't taste much, couldn't smell much, not much point. Interesting thing about this brewery, this is the Panther Brewery Festive Bitter. Now, the Panther Brewery is named after, well, they're based in Norfolk, in a place called Reepham, I think it is, and they're named after a supposed beast that people have seen up there that looked like a panther, and that's where it's got its name. On a similar theme, I was in Devon not so long ago, in a place called Oakhampton. If you know that part of the world, in the West Country, very nice part of the world when it's not raining. It was effing well pissing down and blowing a gale. Now, stayed in the travel lodge with the missus and also took the mother-in-law down there as well. She had a separate room. Me and the missus was in one room. I woke up about 12 o'clock or just before 12 and I thought someone was looking in the window, and I thought some bastard's trying to rob this place. Because I could see a shadow, the curtains were drawn, there was a light outside and I could see the shadow. And I thought, there's someone outside looking in the window. And as soon as I said that, or as soon as I thought that, they walked away. And I thought, all right, fair enough, maybe they weren't, probably having a fag or something like that. I couldn't get to sleep, so I just kept looking at the window, not out the window. The curtains were drawn. I could just see the silhouette outside of the what I thought was outside of the hotel window, and it came back, or they came back, and again stood there looking, or what I thought was looking through the window, and it was there for quite a while, and then it slowly walked back to the left, and I woke Lucy up, my missus, and I said, Lucy, I think there's someone looking in the window, or trying to look in the window. So she woke up, she's all bleary-eyed and all that. I said, keep watching. She said, I can't see anything. It was blowing a gale outside, really windy and raining. Next thing, there was a shadow at the window again. But when Lucy was looking at it, this time it shot off. Turns out, apparently it was a ghost. I don't know. I don't really believe in ghosts. But I can't explain what I saw, because the next day we looked where the window was, and there was something like a 6-foot drop. So unless this bloke was 10 foot tall, then it couldn't have been outside. It was in the window. So as I was getting the bags into the car, Lucy asked the hotel receptionist, she said, you don't have any ghosts in this place, jokingly, and she said, room 102? And Lucy said, yes. And she said, yeah, that's where we were. And apparently the cleaners have seen something there as well. Whether it's a ghost, I don't know. But I've been racking my brains ever since, trying to find a logical explanation. And unfortunately I can't. So, did I see a ghost? I don't know. Have any of you seen ghosts? Personally, I didn't used to believe in them. Now I don't know what to believe. I'm sure there is a logical explanation for it, but for the life of me, I just cannot think of a logical explanation. I know some people, when they wake up and they see things and then they disappear, sometimes it's the mind playing tricks on them. But for two people to see the same thing, that's a little bit uncanny. Anyway, enough about ghosts. Let's get on to this beer. This is from the Panther Brewery, as I said, named after a supposed panther that was spotted They're based up in Norfolk, North Norfolk to be exact. So I'm hoping this is going to be a good one. I got this from Beers of Europe. They're based in, I think, Norfolk or around East Anglia way. And they do showcase a lot of local beers, which I think is great. So I always try and, when I shop with Beers of Europe, I always try and get some of their local beers. They're quite hit and miss. Now, there are some good breweries, I will say, that come from that East Anglia region, where supposedly, well, I don't think supposedly, I think it is the case, that the best malt in the UK comes from. But there's the two standout breweries for me are Adnams, which in my opinion are up there with Fuller's as being one of the best breweries in this country. You've also got St Peter's, which is a very, very good brewery indeed. Very consistent, lovely beer they do, and I've got absolutely no complaints about their beer whatsoever. I don't think I've had a bad one yet. Even the Golden Ale is good. Not sure about this lot. They were founded in 2013. Their range of beers looks quite good, quite traditional. All their beer is unpasteurised, all their beer is unfiltered and bottle conditioned, as this is as well. Now, they've called this a Festive Best Bitter. Now, is Best Bitter a festive beer? No, it's not. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's marketing. You've got all kinds of things now. Festive IPA, and we're coming. I call it silly season when it comes into beer. Yes, there are genuine seasonal beers, fest beers they have in Germany for Christmas, which I've got no problem with whatsoever. But when I see the likes of Christmas IPA and that kind of thing, Christmas Porter, that was never really a thing. Christmas beers were always high ABV, dark, very rich, and very much in the traditional old ale style with a high ABV. I know old ale has taken on a bit of a new connotation now. From the last few incarnations that I've tried from Hepworth and from Adnams, the flavour profile is more like a mild, which is kind of in keeping with the style, but the ABVs have been very low, and I would have expected on an old ale for the beer to be, or the ABV I should say, to be slightly higher. You know, not in the sort of barley wine region, but at least sort of 6%, something like that, 6.5%, maybe 7%. But this stuff isn't. This is a 4.8% Festive Best Bitter. Unfortunately, there's no brew sheet on this. I can't give you any indication of what's gone into it. It gives a bit of a flavour profile description on the side, which, to be honest, is pretty generic. It's basically describing what most bitters taste like. It's talking about fruity notes, caramel, etc., spicy notes, that kind of thing. Good to see a craft, well, I would class them as a craft brewer because they've been around since 2013. It's good to see them doing traditional style ales. That's what I like to see. Now, if this is a good one, I'll definitely let you know. But please don't take it that I'm giving it a bad review because they're simply a craft brewer. That's not the case. I would never do that. I will always give any brewery their due if they brew a decent beer. Now, I have never heard of this brewery before. As I say, I saw the beer on Beers of Europe and I thought worth giving it a go. So here I am. So without further ado, let's get this beer investigated. Right, 500ml bottle, 4.8%, as I've just said. What does it say? Inhabitants of the small Norfolk town of Reepham claim to have seen a large panther-like cat prowling and secretly stalking the countryside. This handcrafted ale is dedicated to this beautiful animal. I have seen panthers, not real life, but I have seen footage of them. They are absolutely gorgeous. You might get on the wrong side of them though, because you would know about it. What else does it say? Contains malted barley and may contain traces of wheat. Supplied by local Norfolk farmers. Yeah, lovely. That's what I like to see. Supporting the local farmers with their produce and brewing beer that is truly local. Fantastic. I love that. Our beers are traditionally bottle conditioned, so pour carefully to leave any fine yeast sediment in the bottle. That is something I don't do. I know a lot of brewers say to leave the yeast in the bottle. I don't do that. I think it's probably because I always pour the yeast sediment of a wheat beer, which I'm supposed to, and of course any Belgian beers as well. But I've always done it with bottle conditioned beers. I've always thrown the yeast in. I kind of believe there is some kind of, well, there's more flavour if you put the yeast sediment in. I don't know why they say not to eat the yeast sediment. Yes, it's dead yeast, but it is a living organism. You eat it in bread, you eat it in basically anything that has yeast in it. You're drinking it in beer as well. So the yeast sediment really doesn't. I don't hold true to that. But if you don't like bits of floaters in your beer, don't drink the yeast sediment. Try and keep it in the bottle. And there's a way to do that as well. That, in fact, that's supposedly, I don't know whether it's true, but that's supposedly why beer has got that in its, or beer bottles have got that in their shape. This is supposedly to trap the yeast sediment. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard. Anyway, more on that later. Let's get this open and see if this is any good. Right, the cap is just plain brass. Now, I've got to be really careful with this because it's bottle conditioned, and I really hope this doesn't fizz up. If it fizzes up, I really will lose my shit, because I tried some bottle conditioned pale ale recently and it went everywhere, and that was not good. No, thankfully this hasn't fizzed up. Sometimes there's a little bit of there's too much yeast in there, and it stays in there and fizzes up when it hits the air. Alright, here is the glass. Now that is cloudy, and this glass is dirty. Oh fuck. Alright, what are we getting on the nose? Ooh. Quite sulphurous, but quite a sweet chocolatey, chocolate malt, I should say. But there's a hint of spice on that too, and fruit as well, dark fruit. But there's a real earthy, musty tone to this. Cross between them three types, you've got chocolate malt, quite sweet chocolate malt, a real mustiness to it, and some fruit as well. It does smell interesting, I will say that. Not sure whether I think it's an amazing aroma or not. I'm just going to pour a little bit in there because the head's dissipated quite quickly. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because this glass is a little bit dirty. But anyway, without further ado, let's get this down my fat Gregory Peck. Bottoms up. Not bad. Not bad. There's a fair amount of spice on that, which is nice. It's got quite a caramel and roasted malt mix on that, and there's a definite mustiness to it as well, which is quite nice. I think that does work. Reasonably long finish of caramel and earth. I'm assuming they've used some kind of Fuggles hops in this, or maybe some Goldings as well, a mix of the two, because there's a real earthy profile on this. But there's also a nice little bit of spice on that finish, nice black pepper spice, which I always look for in a bitter. In my opinion, it gives bitter its distinctive character, where it's got that nice spicy note from the hops on the finish. Nice. There's a very leafy, grassy style note to it as well, which is, well, I'm almost certain it's coming from the hops, but that is quite interesting. It's not a standout bitter for me, I will say. I I think it's a little bit unbalanced, I will say that. The malt character is there, but it's being dominated by the hops, and really in a bitter, you want balance. You want a nice malty profile with just a little bit of spice on top of that. Certainly on the finish you want that spiciness, and it's a little bit hop heavy in my opinion. The good thing is it hasn't got a stupid American hop profile in here at all, and even on the aroma now I'm getting that really musty type. Yeah, it really is. And I was saying there's not an American style profile on there. There is definitely some kind of citrus that I'm getting on there, and I'm wondering what that is. It's almost like not a grapefruit, but like a bitter orange, that type of thing. Very faint trace, but I can get it. Yeah, not bad. Not much fruit in there, which again, in a bitter, sometimes you do get it, sometimes you don't. With this though, I think the hops have really dominated on this one. It's all about typical English style hops with a hint of citrus in there that I'm getting. It's very, very faint, but I can detect it. All in all, not a bad beer. I won't say it's bad beer. That is nice. I would definitely buy that again. It's not the best one I've tasted, not the best bitter I've tasted certainly, but it ain't bad. And I think the saving grace from this is it's got a very nice undercurrent of caramel malt and bordering on chocolate malt as well, and it does taste quite nice. However, the hops on this really do dominate. That's not necessarily a bad thing with a bitter, but I prefer a little bit more balance. So yeah, that's probably just personal taste. All in all, that ain't a bad beer. So what is the verdict on Panther Festive Bitter? Well, Festive Bitter, I think this is just a marketing gimmick. There is no real such thing as a festive beer. To be honest, any beer could be festive. If you're drinking it at Christmas, then it's festive, let's face it. But as bitters go, it's okay. And the positives on this, I like to see new breweries trying to brew or attempting to brew traditional style English ales, and that isn't bad. I have to say that is not the worst attempt at a best bitter. And the fact that they've only been around since 2013, I think it's quite nice. I think it's quite admirable that they're going for that kind of style of beer to brew, and they haven't fallen in the American IPA trap. But I just think that I wouldn't say their lack of experience, but I just don't think this has got the balance and the moorishness of a more well-established best bitter. For example, I know I shouldn't be comparing it, but I was out Saturday and I was in the Parcel Yard in King's Cross. Love that pub, and only because of the beer. I mean, the clientele and the surroundings aren't that amazing, to be honest. It's in the middle of King's Cross Station, but the beer is kept really well, and I was drinking ESB. They stopped doing HSB there, which I think is a real shame, and that's another Fuller's beer. That's the Sussex bitter. That is absolutely gorgeous, and they stopped doing it, and that really annoys me. But the ESB is a very, very good replacement for that, and yeah, I really do like it. But as I say, this is not in that league. I've had better bitters out there. In fact, I've had quite a few better bitters on this, but it's not a bad effort, all things considered. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I was toying with the idea of 6.5, but I think 7 is worthy of it. I don't know whether this is going to be available all year round. It's available on Beers of Europe at the moment. It ain't a bad one, I will say that, but again, it's all about the competition. And if you're going to be paying, I think this was £2, nearly £3 a bottle, and I'm just thinking, well, if that's the case and they've got a Fuller's beer, or even they will have an Adnams beer in there, an Adnams bitter, the Southwold bitter. That's really nice. That is very unusual. There's got a bit of a Belgian twist to it as well, which is really interesting, but it's very nice indeed. I think this is probably going to miss out, but don't let that stop you. If you do see this on your travels, or if you see anything from the Panther Brewery, I think it's worth checking out, because I think they've got the right idea, and I think that it's great to see young breweries, and I say young, they've been going since 2013, so effectively that's 10 years, and it's great to see them doing this style of beer, because, as I say, most craft brewers now are doing the American thing, which is fair enough. You know, if it's making them money and it's keeping their heads above water, then crack on. Who am I to complain? That's people's jobs, and that's somebody's dream. But for me, this is my kind of thing. Very nice indeed, and I probably would buy it again. So for that reason, you're getting a 7 out of 10. And remember, beer is working class champagne.